Hello, I'm going to be talking about how we as a society are not controlling a tendency to mob rule that is raising its ugly head in our civilization. And mob rule is the absolute antithesis to any sort of civilized discourse. So we really have to be thinking about that, don't we? And at the moment, the mob rule is coming from a section of society generally led by Muslims. And it reminds me a little bit, in many ways, it happened a lot in America during the 50s, I think, and the early 60s, when children were doing anti-bomb drills in school, and they were told when the bomb siren went off, they had to get under their tables and that sort of thing. It didn't happen in Britain, and it's obvious in America it was one of those things of to encourage a sort of national nervousness about the Soviets. Well, I suppose in Britain it's because in America it was a 15-minute warning, and in Britain it was like a 4-minute warning or something. I think most people thought it just wasn't worth bothering about. Anyway, it's sort of like we're getting these anti-nuclear drills now. You know, somebody releases something that's likely to excite the indignation of a Muslim community, and then we all get under our tables and hope it'll go away, which of course it does, apparently, but not to our advantage. Oh, by the way, I want to say, I've had a couple of complaints about the noise, a sort of rattling, thumping noise. It's because I've got this old computer table and it had a pull-out drawer which rattled. So what I've done now is I've stuck a couple of pieces of cardboard into the bit where it rattles. That works better, doesn't it? Okay, so don't ever say that I don't take any notice of you. Oh, and I've had other people criticising my lipstick. I have to tell you, it's usually the same lipstick. It's all to do with the lighting. Because this is not a professional outfit, the lighting does change from time to time, and somehow the camera picks up different colours. So sometimes a very pale pink lipstick comes out as quite red. Well, I'm not going to make the whole video again just because the lipstick comes up wrong. Sorry, I am a little bit of a perfectionist, but not that much. Okay, well, there you have the two explanations, and now I'm going to be talking about the Satanic verses. A lot of people did bring this up when I was talking about the Lady of Heaven film, or the controversy surrounding it, and they pointed out the Satanic verses connection. For those of you who might have not been that concerned with the controversy at the time, what happened was an author of Pakistani origin, who'd been educated and brought up in Britain, wrote a book called The Satanic Verses, which in many ways was a sort of satire of Quranic beliefs. And it caused a huge fuss. And it didn't cause a fuss at all. Nobody was bothered about it until one particular Pakistani community leader, you know what I think about community leaders, decided to whip up a whole thing, tried to burn the book publicly. It was a bit of a disaster. They set fire to themselves, as far as I remember. And then that was taken up by the, sorry, it's in my eye, by the Ayatollah Khomeini, who saw a nice way of, just whipping up something, because there's nothing like whipping up a crowd to take people's minds off their present troubles. And the Satanic verses provided this sort of an excuse. Now, it seems to me in many ways interesting that the Satanic verses controversy seems to have been around. The fuss about the Satanic verses also seems to have been at around the same time that the grooming gangs got started. I mean, we heard about people saying, oh, they've been abused by these gangs for 20, 30 years. It seems like it was at the end of the 80s when this all started up. Now, I may be wrong about that, but the two things seem sort of coincidental. So if that's the case, do I think that the grooming gang started because a bunch of people of Pakistani ethnic origin in the north of England, which is where the Rushdie thing got started, by the way, thought, oh, well, we can run riot in fury about the work of an author, so that means we can do what we like with kafir women. Well, not exactly, but what could have been going through the minds of those of evil inclination is that in Pakistan, if a group of Christians would have started kidnapping and assaulting girls from the Muslim community, this would have sparked riots, mass killings, and probably a complete destruction of that particular non-Muslim community. So, I mean, this is proven by the Asia Bibi case, isn't it? I mean, she was a Christian in a predominantly Muslim Pakistani village, and she was accused by a villager of simply drinking from a mug of water that she wasn't supposed to. I'm sure those people would have contrasted that with the situation in the UK, where not only the Kafirs themselves, the people, you know, in the cities that were surrounding them, but even their legal protection seemed unable to exercise any protection, even and they couldn't do that even for their high class and respected and universally feted authors, because Rushdie had a lot of cachet among the British upper classes. And suddenly a certain group from the Pakistani Muslim population realised that it had almost unlimited power within the limits of its self-definition as a community, of course. And as they say, power corrupts. So, in my belief, if the reaction of the British establishment to the Rushdie affair had been less tolerant and more outraged and probably sharper at the time, then there probably would have been a cultural difference in the whole Muslim community, which would have shaped the way the Muslim community has developed up to today. Remember, most of these incidents, well, all of these incidents really are whipped up by a minority, the imam or community leaders or whatever. There is a tendency to mob rule in all Muslim societies. Actually, I made a video about that and my speculation for the reasons for it. I'm trying to remember what I call the video. I can't, but if I do remember what it was called, I'll leave a link in the description and you can watch that. But I believe it has to do with the social organisation in Muslim societies. And it's the minority which has been empowered by the paralysis of the establishment. And they, pass this on to their willing followers. As I remember it, newspapers like The Guardian were urging tolerance and accommodation, while newspapers who might have been a bit more sharp about the situation, publications like the Daily Mail, were far less sympathetic to Rushdie's plight, as they might have been, because Rushdie was himself a member of the sneering establishment. And I think people in the Daily Mail thought it was his just desserts, really. But anyway, it wouldn't have mattered if the Daily Mail had got all whipped up and proactive, though, because no one in the establishment would have taken any notice of them anyway, just like Gordon Brown, having heard something about the grooming gangs. Well, I don't know whether it was him or his office, but it certainly, even if it was just his office, it was an office being run under the Gordon Brown ethos. He was briefly Prime Minister after Tony Blair, and there was some rumours coming up about grooming gangs, and his office sent some sort of a communication back to social workers and police along the lines of, well, if these girls got themselves involved in such a way, that's their choice and we shouldn't interfere. That was quite a horrible, shocking attitude, but Brown has form on that, so it's entirely in character. All right, well, that's it. So you see, what's going on now with the Lady of Heaven controversy is indeed just like what's going on in the Satanic verses, but we're 30, 40 years down the line now, aren't we? 30 years down the line, really. And we've allowed things to get much too far to be easily controlled, I think. But still, that's no excuse not to start acting now. Okay, well, I'm Granniopteryx. I am on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, and possibly Minds. And when I upload a video, I do so on Twitter, Gab and Parler, where I am at Granniopteryx. And even if you check your subscription and discover that you are subscribed, you might not get notifications, especially on YouTube. So it's just as well to subscribe to one of those platforms as well. Yeah, please like this video, share it. As I say, check your subscription and contribute to the channel if you can. Especially as I'm now, well, in the past 3 videos I've made, I wouldn't dream of trying to monetize them on YouTube because there wouldn't be a chance of doing that anyway. Okay, right, well, till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the Granniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.granniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.